Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up in less than 12 hours, millions of SIM cards which have not been linked to the Ghana card will be deactivated by the National Communications Authority. Meanwhile, there are concerns about what happens to mobile money accounts. We will be speaking with the Telecoms Chamber. Also coming up, Ghana National Petroleum Corporation to begin onshore drilling at Kita Basin in the Volta region next year.
GNPC is almost close to drilling on land. Yeah, that's what we call the Volta Basin project, covering close about 45% of the total landmark of Ghana.
Also, we speak to a section of the public who insists government must account for all monies received from donors to fight COVID-19.
I don't want to give accountability. No, he should come and account to us, and then we will decide whether the the COVID-19 levy should continue.
My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. And thanks for staying with us here on the marketplace. In less than 12 hours, millions of SIM cards which have not been linked to the Ghana card will be deactivated by the National Communications Authority. According to the Chamber of Telecommunications, this figure includes SIM cards which have gone through only one stage of the registration process and those that have not been linked to the Ghana card at all. Dr. Kenashibe is Chief Executive of the Chamber of Telecommunications. He joins us on Zoom to tell us a bit more. Good afternoon to you, sir. So far, how many SIM cards do we know to be unregistered, and what happens after today if telecom subscribers fail to register their SIM cards?
So thank you very much. So for the GSM side, you would have about 9 million SIMs that could be impacted. But you know that typically of us Ghanaians, at this last minute, people are rushing in to do it. So by the end of day today, we'll really be able to tell what numbers have been impacted. On the MFS, the mobile money side as well, around 7 million, including those who are inactive, because you have to take those who have not done any activity for a while out. But if you add them to it, it's about 7 million or so who would also be impacted. And balances on those particular wallets is around 200 million cedis. That is it. That could be impacted. And what it is that if you have not done the registration, and when we talk about registration, you should have done the biometric verification before the end of today. Otherwise, you'll be impacted. There are those who, if they have evidence to prove that they have gone for the Ghana card and they are yet to receive it, which means they will have a slip, they would have to provide that evidence to the NTA. And the NTA would be able to verify that. And then the NTA would then direct the telcos to then exempt that particular number from it.
Yeah, well, conversation has already started about what happens to mobile money accounts. Have you figured your way out around that? We understand the NCA was meeting on that today. What happens to the account, the monies in them?
So you know that when it comes to mobile money, the regulator is the NCA, is the Bank of Ghana. So the Bank of Ghana has issued out directives to the mobile money operators, the EMIs, such that when these numbers are barred, the monies on those particular wallets and the information around it would have to be put in dedicated accounts, such that when the person comes wanting his money, the person would then have to provide all the necessary documents to be able to have access to his money. But that money will be had outside. It will not be on that particular number as a mobile money account. So what would happen is that if you are unable to register, or if you don't register, or you don't provide any information to the NCA by the end of day today that would warrant you to be exempted, what will happen is that you can't access your mobile money account to be able to do transactions, but you'll be able to offline be able to go and collect your money that would be put on in particular accounts, which would be dedicated for that purpose.
Well, I guess that is pretty clear, but it should be also concerning that despite the publicity, there are still millions of SIM cards that are not registered.
Yeah, it really is very worrying. You know, we started all of this sometime in October 2021, and we've had several times where we've had to extend, the deadlines. The last one was the 31st of March, when based on the directive from the ministry, the NCA directed the telcos to block all SIMs that had only done phase one, which means that the person has a Ghana card. Why has the person not completed the process? So on the 31st of March, all of those were barred and deactivated and removed from the database. And now again, the Director General of the NCA then offered the 31st of May for those who have not done any registration at all. You saw the MNOs get into, increase the ante in terms of using, your mediums, and then also direct messaging, actual calls to people, asking them to come and register, even with incentives of free data, free airtime and all of that. But you still have people who did not, take advantage of that, apart from those who might genuinely have reason not to have. Typically we mentioned those who might have applied for the Ghana card, have been given the slip, but the card has not been given to them. You also have examples of people who live in conflict areas like Boku and Co, who might not have registered. You also would have, people who might be living outside this country who still keep their numbers. Either they're roaming on their numbers, they're using them for their mobile money and all of that, who could not have registered. And all of this, what the NCA had then said was that if you had such challenges, you are supposed to reach out to the NCA, so that then they can consider your situation and then direct the MNOs on what to do. We should bear in mind that no MNO would be able to take any decision apart from directives given by the regulator, the NCA.
A few weeks ago, there were complaints about fraudulent registration carried out by agents. How has the telecoms chamber tackled that?
Well, they're working together with our members in the NCA. There was a short code that was developed, star 401 42 hash 1 402 star 402 star 1 hash. When you dial that, you would have to provide the, all the information that is required, and then it will tell you what numbers are linked to your card. And then based on that, if there are any of the numbers that are not yours, you then report to your MNO, and then your MNO would then delink it. So that has been going on, and there are quite a lot of them that have been dealt with.
So would you say that we have successfully come to an end of the SIM card re-registration exercise?
Well, today is the deadline that has been given for the blocking and of it. Let's see how today goes. As I said, there are particular scenarios. Those who don't have. The NIA has been talking about a couple of millions that do not have their Ghana card yet, and all of that. And if you notice, some of the MNOs are directing people who have the slips to go. So I'm sure the NCA would give definite positions on some of these. There were about 230,000 agents and merchants themselves who also, due to one reason or the other, had also not completed the processes, which we had petitioned the NCA to look into that as well. I'm pretty sure those decisions are also being taken, and we need to figure out what is going to happen to that. But yes, by the end of the day today, at least there will be a more definitive position, so that we would clean up the databases. But the worrying thing is the fact that the numbers are still significant. 9 million is quite a significant one. And so as many as, can regularize, or those who would not be able, that would have to be exempted as well. We are, looking up to seeing how that is handled. So yes, you never can say never, but today is the deadline.
All right, Engineer Dr. Ken Ashby, Chief Executive of the Telecoms Chamber, appreciate your time with us. We want to bring in Samuel Dowuna, who is spokesperson for the Network of Communication Reporters. Good afternoon to you. From a consumer perspective, what's your assessment of how this exercise has gone?
Well, thank you very much, Daryl, and to your viewers. I think Engineer Ashby has laid it out very well. These deadlines, they started giving these deadlines for more than 1 year now, and every time they push it back, in the implementation of national policy, I think it gets to a time when, you just have to take the bull by the horn and say that, okay, let's get this deactivations done, and then let's see what the consequences are, and then let's manage it. So I think all of us did fight on behalf of Ghanaians in terms of let's give Ghanaians more time, because the NIA is not built to work with deadlines. So they are working at their own pace. They also work according to the resources that come to them. So you cannot. The idea is that you cannot really punish people for the pace at which the NIA is working, because NIA cannot work with the NCA's deadlines. All right. So, but then it comes to a time when you just need to take the bull by the horn, because mind you, apart from the fact that there are people who genuinely don't have their Ghana cards, and the reasons they have are genuine. There are those who also have just refused to go. And let's also admit that there are those people who have also deliberately refused to go and get their Ghana cards and go and register their SIMs. Why? Because they are using the SIM for fraud. And we have seen a lot of fraud cases. In fact, between May 1st and now that the NCA said that they were going to be deactivating cards, the fraud incidents have increased. Personally, I've had about 6 people make a move on me. It tells you that these are people who know that their SIM cards will be deactivated, and so they are trying to cash in on it. So the fraud is also there. So it's not just about people who have genuine reasons. The fraudulent people are there, and we have also been told by the NCA, which the telcos themselves admitted, that their own agents, the telcos' own agents, participated in this fraudulent linking of people's SIM cards to other people's Ghana cards. Okay. And then we know that mobile money agents have been part of some of this mobile money fraud. So let's also admit that fraudsters include agents, and there are fraudsters who are deliberately refusing to go and register their cards. So whatever the deactivation is going to be affecting a lot of genuine people, but it's also going to help us to clean the system in terms of clearing the fraudsters as much as possible.
But
Daryl,
doesn't that just raise questions about the effectiveness of this whole exercise if it's to check fraud, and we have cases where agents are fraudulently registering SIM cards? It beats the whole idea, doesn't it?
So, which is why it brings me back to our original call as NCR. Which is why we made a call that, look, when we do this deactivation, this particular one, which is after today, if we begin to do the deactivation tomorrow, the process going forward, the SIM registration process going forward, should completely exclude the agents. Because listen, they have proven to us, the agents have proven to us that given the chance, they are going to circumvent the process. And they have showed it to us. When this SIM registration started, because of the long queues at the various telcos offices, the telcos went to NCA and asked for permission for their agents to join. And those agents who didn't have smartphones, where they were supposed to be allowed to use feature phones, what we call YAM phones. And because the YAM phones could not do the app registration, which is the state 2, they were allowed them to use the old system of registration, then to activate the SIMs. then you encourage the owner of the SIM to go on and then do the actual SIM registration process. Because the SIMs have been activated for them and the telcos are getting, those SIMs have now become revenue generating SIMs for them. They didn't care to push their customers to go and then do the SIM registration. So it seems to me that with the telcos, as long as the SIM is active, they don't care whether the person has done the proper registration or not. So you see, this process is being circumvented by the agent. So that's why we made a call and said that let's clear the agent. So if after clearing the agent, we still see fraudulent SIMs still being getting active, then we know we look at which telcos are doing them. We know that their staff are now engaging in this fraud.
We have just 30 seconds. How has that advocacy gone to get the push to stop the agents from registering SIMs?
So our call was that after today. So 31st, because NCA says that from 31st they are going to be deactivating all the SIMs that are not registered. So if we deactivate all SIMs that are not registered, then there is no more deadline. So there is no more agency for agents to, as it were, be part of the process and then facilitate any process. So clear them off, because in any case, they are the ones circumventing the process anyway. So clear them off. So we are waiting. After today, we are expecting that the NCA will make an announcement and say that agents are no more part of the process, period.
All right, Samuel Dowuna, always a pleasure speaking with you, spokesperson for the Network of Communication Reporters. Moving on, the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation is hoping to begin onshore drilling at the Kita Basin in the Volta region next year. This is part of moves by the national oil exploration firm to access oil and gas in the Voltairean Basin. Speaking to Joy Business, Executive Director of the GNPC Foundation, Dominic Ejia, hinted that all efforts are being made to ensure the drilling is done without any negative environmental impact, since this will be the first onshore drilling to be done in the country.
GNPC is almost close to drilling on land. Yeah, that's what we call the Voltairean Basin project, covering close about 45% of the total landmark of Ghana. So you can understand, we can't sit aloof and just wake up to drill on land. We need to get that close engagement with the people. We need to let them understand that the proceeds from the oil is being used to benefit them already, so that they can be part of us as partners in development. So that's the essence of the foundation. That's what we've been doing for the past 5 years. As I mentioned, our target 5 years ago is to ensure that when a socioeconomic assessment is done, we should be able to beat our chest and say that we've impacted no less than 10 million lives in Ghana. And that's exactly what we are embarking on.
You did mention about the drilling. How soon are we going to see it? Because we've been hearing about it since.
Oh, as my chief executive has mentioned, he's everywhere, and he has said that his target, that's Mr. Opoku Dankwa, his target is to drill next year in the Voltairean, and a lot of work is being done.
Is it achievable?
Very much achievable. A lot of work is being done towards that.
A section of the public is asking government to account for all the monies received from donors to fight COVID-19. It's coming after the president pleaded for more time and support from Ghanaians to still collect the COVID health recovery levy as tax. Now, people who have been speaking to Joy Business say government must account for all the funds received from donors during the pandemic. Here's James Ishen with more.
Parliament enacted the COVID-19 Health Recovery Levy 2021, Act 1068, to impose a special levy on the supply of goods and services and import to raise revenue to support the COVID-19 expenditures and other related matters. The COVID-19 Health Recovery Levy was applicable to both standard rate and VAT flat rate registered person. There have been a lot of conversation with respect to the levy on whether or not it should be scrapped. President Akufo-Addo in S29th address on Sunday declared an end to COVID-19 pandemic in Ghana, but emphasized the significance of the COVID-19 Health Recovery Levy in addressing the unforeseen expenses caused by the crisis. He recognized it might not be the most popular tax, but he appealed to the people of Ghana to comprehend the need for this levy during these challenging times.
Let me make it clear that COVID expenditures, essentially unplanned, have been subject at my instigation to audit by the Auditor General and are going through parliamentary processes. We all deserve to be reassured that the crisis was not used as a cover for corrupt practices. The COVID health recovery levy that was introduced to help fill some of the expenditure holes might not be the most popular tax, but I entreat all of you to bear with us. The COVID Trust Fund has performed an invaluable service, and with these developments has reached the end of its mandate. I thank the trustees as well as all donors and contributors to the fund. Going to the IMF was not part of the economic transformation agenda I'd been pursuing, especially as my government had gone the extra mile to bring to a successful end the IMF program we inherited from the previous government. But who would have imagined that President Akufo-Addo would order the closure of airports, offices, factories, or schools?
But some Ghanaians are calling for the scrap of this levy, indicating it's affecting their income.
The COVID levy should be scrapped off because I feel like it has performed the duty it wants to perform. When it came, even though we had help from outside and other places, we still took this levy. And the levy is so much on the country. In this economy that we are in now, it should be scrapped off so that we can venture our money into other things that will profit with the individuals, than we still paying the levy and not getting anything back from it. Because
You're watching The Marketplace. Time to take a look at the latest news from the world of tech. Joining me is Henry Kobler, who is lead for Eyes of Africa. Great to have you this afternoon. We want to begin with this story that is really of concern for me, and I'm sure for everyone watching. A new report released by the U.S. Surgeon General, which has unveiled the troubling state of youth mental health in the era of social media. What did the report discover?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Daryl. So, there's been quite a number of surge relatively when it comes down to social media use amongst the youth. Generally, when you go to Facebook, TikTok, there's so many of them. Generally, you always have new ones pushing up, but you'd realize that what the report really was saying was that there's a very high level of depression, anxiety, self-harm, and also suicide amongst, they had mentioned American youth, but you would also realize that this is also very significant in the youth within Africa. And so generally you're looking at that level of loneliness or depression, anxiety, sometimes very unhealthy comparisons when it comes down to what other people are achieving. And there's a lot of success stories on social media without them telling you what exactly they had to go through or the foul means they had to use to acquire certain targets where they sort of display on social media, as well as also having damaging self-images for themselves. And so sort of looking at themselves instead of some level of comparisons and destroying themselves rather in the process. And so that's sort of how the report had looked at it, and that sort of also looked at some level of recommendations.
Yeah, and as you rightly point out, it's not just a situation in the US, but here in Ghana as well, indeed across the continent, the youth are addicted to social media. It's having an impact on their mental health. So how can this be controlled?
So generally, if you're looking at the control for that, I think that first of all, the onus lies on the platform owners relatively to be doing quite a number of things and putting some robust measures to help salvage some of these situations. You're looking at age verification mechanisms. It's been difficult because that usually happens on some platforms, but generally you get to find that you can just work your way out without a proper mechanism. These days, I think that there are quite a number of technologies that could be deployed in terms of using biometrics to sort of determine age verifications. But I think that it's really a very good tool for most of the platforms, but that's where the numbers are also sitting. And so they sort of always downplay that mechanism. And also, they're looking at enhanced content modification. TikTok really does that in terms of modifying some of the content that are shot to lower ages. And then I think that also a bit of transparency that comes in terms of the algorithms that are used. And so people could sort of understand the algorithms and how they recommend content. And then they could also push it out. I think that major role also lies with parents and schools as well to basically guide students in the way that they could actually consume some of the data that is sitting on social media.
How about the government? Because, for instance, in the US, in some states, TikTok is banned, for instance.
the government really, I mean, generally you understand that it comes in a bit late in terms of some of these implementations of the policies or regulations for some of these platforms. I mean, we've seen the US and the UK or the European Union calling some of these platform owners. But in Africa, really, what I've seen Africans really do usually is actually sending these owners taxes to be pushed on to us. And so I think that when some level of regulation comes in, or there's that thought-provoking surveys like this one coming into play, I think that our government really within the African sector could be looking at this and also be making a lot of recommendations, as well as some level of policies to that. Banning social media points, you might not necessarily always get it through because people have their ways around it. But I think that the regulations could come in better off when there's a lot of survey to understand the mindsets and how Africans are being affected positively and negatively with some of these social media platforms. All
right, Henry Kobler, thank you so much for joining us, lead for Eyes of Africa. And that's our program. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Read more about the SIM card registration exercise, which comes to an end today, and also on fuel prices going down. That's it. We'll be back same time tomorrow.